we just did a great job of being the first ones to throw a punch.
He has been a first quarter machine tonight.
Karl Anthony Towns showing no ill effect to that knee.
And the New York Knicks have looked elimination in the eye, and they are alive and kicking.
After a game like that, we understand what the stakes are. Now it's on us to respond.
We're going to have to even be better next game if we expect to have our season continue.
All right, approaching the bottom of the hour, Knicks beat the Pacers last night in Game 5, forcing a Game 6, keeping their season alive. Tyrese Halliburton had one of the great games ever in Game 4. Jay will show us here why it is that he did not follow that up last night.
Well, Greeny, the way the Pacers like to play, they like volume, number of possessions, right? Because they can play faster. Which they're not an efficient team in the half court. So let's watch some of this just basic ball pressure, right? Obviously, a guy like Halliburton, we said before, wants to play this way, fast. He wants to go up and down the court. What you're going to see off this play is just a little bit of ball pressure where you're going to have him work side to side. And the big thing to pay attention to is the shot clock, 23 seconds, okay? Because the majority of their points are scored in 12 seconds or less. So just Mikal Bridges applying great pressure, great pressure, great pressure. And just look at this part right here. Now, he comes over from the weak side and he helps. We're not going to show the full play, okay? But also, here's the thing to pay attention to, 17 seconds. You've made them use 7 seconds just to get the ball up the court, which kind of takes away from their efficiency, forcing them to be a half-court team. Next play, because they don't end up scoring on this play. Once again, soft the ball pressure.
Look at it,
Mikal Bridges.
50 feet from the basket.
50 feet, just working them side to side, working them side to side, working them side to side. Gets the ball in the hands. By the time Nembhard catches the ball, once again, look right here. 15 seconds here, okay? 15 seconds down here. Sorry, the thing was messing up. But still, forcing you to use 9 seconds off of the shot clock to get into your half court. Once again, making them a half court team, not fast paced. Don't score in that possession as well. Once again, great ball pressure, just working them side to side, working them side to side. I'm gonna keep bringing this up, guys. Little things, 17 seconds, right? Just making use another 7 seconds to get the ball up the court. And that's the end of the tape. But Greeny, the biggest point here is that last night, points per possession, right? They were 0.74 points per possession in this game. Last game, 1.19. That's a drastic difference.
Oh, yeah.
Game 1 and Game 2, over 1 point. When you force them to be a half-court team, they're not as effective.
Well, I mean, the Pacers scored 130 points the other night. They scored 90-something last night.
Right.
That's obviously an enormous difference. The Knicks' level of defensive intensity was extraordinarily different. And by the way, speaking of intensity, let me mention that at ESPN Bet Sportsbook, the Pacers are now 3.5-point favorites in Game 6 tomorrow night in Indy. They're minus 375 favorites to win the series. The Knicks are at plus 290 to complete the comeback. So that doesn't all sound very good for New York. But Charles Barkley, after the game, had these thoughts and a warning in Game 6.
The Pacers still in control, but I will say this.
Say it. Say it.
Boy,
Say it.
If they
don't win Game 6,
they're going to come back to New York. It is a must-win for the Pacers.
Wow.
Because if they come back here, they're going to get another ass kicking like they did tonight.
It's fascinating. No one knows Charles better than you do. That's an interesting perspective for him to have in a series and a postseason in general, where A, home court advantage doesn't ever feel like it really has meant almost anything.
No.
And B, this series, every game has been so unusual.
But that's the beauty of playoff basketball.
Right.
It's back and forth. Somehow we've gotten too much observing this into perceiving that there ought to be some great consistency. There isn't. The push and pull of playoff basketball is up one day, down the other. You today, him tomorrow. That's what it is. So Charles has been in these series. I remember a series when Charles Barkley was in the finals. Michael Jordan had like back-to-back 50s, and yet Phoenix wound up coming back in that series and getting it to 3-2 and making the Bulls win a Game 6 in Phoenix. So even the great players, but only the great players, consistently deliver 4 or 5 great performances in one series. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, that was the Bulls were up 3-1 in a 2-3-2. The Bulls had the 3 in the middle.
And won the first 2 in Phoenix.
Right. And the Suns won Game 5, and that was the famous "we saved your city" and all. So the point was the Suns won that game and got to go home for 2 more. The Pacers are the home court tomorrow night. Wendy, I've got two different perspectives working here this morning. I got Fortenbaugh telling me that was a predictable laying of an egg, go heavy on the Pacers tomorrow night. I got Charles telling me the Pacers better win tomorrow night or they're going to get blown out in Game 7. How do you see it?
Well, remember that the Pacers are designed to outlast their opponents the deeper a series goes. So part of what the Pacers' strategy, not necessarily that they were wanting to give away Game 5, was exhaust the Knicks and then come back with more energy in Game 6. But I will say this, they have not been in this situation before. The Pacers have had a lot of playoff success the last 2 years, thriving as the underdog. This is a new experience for them. They will go into this game Saturday night with the expectation from everybody in the NBA and their fans that they will win and go to the first finals in 25 years. How will they react to that? Maybe they'll be terrific. Maybe all of their actions will get back to their normal and they will have their high-speed game and they'll win and they'll be in Oklahoma City next week. But I don't know about them. I have not seen them deal with this particular situation, and they did not deal with the opportunity given to them last night the best. I'll just say that.
As far as wearing the Knicks down, Alan, you know this team as well as anybody. I'm looking at the minutes. Jalen Brunson played under 34 minutes. So did Mikal Bridges. Karl Anthony Towns played 36. Anunoby 34. They didn't play those 42 minutes that we sometimes see the Knicks play. Does that feel like advantage New York going to tomorrow night?
It's something that you're seeing the evolution in this series is that Tom Thibodeau has had to change some things. And one of the things he's doing is playing 10 guys now. He is going to his bench and he's getting a lot of minutes and production. It might not be in points, but it certainly isn't defense. They were chanting Landry Shamit's name last night at Madison Square Garden. Like, that's all you need to know.
Not sure they knew who he was.
So the battle of attrition was certainly early in the series being won by Indiana. The Knicks had to make that adjustment. They went to their bench. They're getting defensive production off the bench. That's why they feel like this series doesn't look the same as it did in the first two games.
Guys, I firmly believe in Jalen Brunson to show up in really big moments because he's proven that. I think this Game 6 really comes down to Karl Anthony Towns and who he is. If he's going to be the player that's going to be aggressive, they are effectively a better team when he's on the court. When he's off the court, it allows a lot more spacing. I know Mitchell Robinson's still a really good defender, but it makes him more one-dimensional. And those spouts, second quarter, it's essentially Karl Anthony Towns putting on the show with four other reserve players.
Or defensive
that
guys.
Carries the load, because that's the advantage. But can he stay out of foul trouble?
Ooh.
Do you trust Karl Anthony Towns?
Can't give away a couple of silly ones. Can't do it.
Stay out of foul trouble to remain on the court down the stretch. That's a major question.
One other question. The Pacers, Rick Carlisle's got something up his sleeve. And this is when you spring it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a deep roster, a varied roster, a roster which is adaptable, right? It's nimble. And so when you talk about the long game, and Brian referred to that, and that's how many times have the Pacers, Alan, talked about 13 days? 13 days. They didn't come into this thinking knockout. They're not Mike Tyson, and they know who they are.
Right.
So yes, two things can be, more than one thing can be true. Charles is right. The Pacers better win Game 6. They're counting on 6. By the way, the Pacers, some of us are old enough, one of us at this table, who's seen the Pacers win Game 7 in New York.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, that's
so
by the way,
the long game.
30th anniversary.
Yeah.
And how did that series begin? A Game 1, Reggie went 8 points in 8.9 seconds, stole Game 1 at the Garden, flipped that series, and the Knicks had to chase that the rest of the way. Very similar story. The Knicks did force a Game 7, got it back. 3-1 deficit, got it to a 7. Patrick Ewing had a chance to win it.
I was going to say, let's burn this tape before Patrick can see anything.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but
still,
my
friend Patrick knowing.
But it's the only time. 10 times the Pacers have had a 3-1 series lead. It's the only time a team has forced a Game 7. So the history of this rivalry continues.
But Mike, I think you're going to see in Game 6 a lot more screens by Miles Turner in the backcourt.
Absolutely.
You didn't see it one time.
They got to help Halliburton.
Because Halliburton plays better when he goes downhill and they have 4-on-3s. You can do that when you set a hard screen.
You got to do that in the backcourt for sure.
They didn't do that one time in Game 5, not once.
Wendy, am I oversimplifying it to say that Tyrese Halliburton is sort of the temperature gauge here? When he's brilliant, they win, and when the Knicks figure him out a little bit, advantage New York?
Yeah, I mean, one thing about Halliburton, he does lay eggs. I mean, this was his 13th game this season where he scored in single digits. He had a game in the last round against the Cavs where he had a 4-point game, actually. He's had a lower scoring game than this. In those 13 games, the Pacers are 3-10. When he scored over 20, they're like 30-3. So it's not just that what's his scoring, it's what leads to his scoring, which is usually high-speed basketball, turnovers, easy baskets. One usually goes with the other for Indiana.
All right, so one team had a chance to close out a series last night and didn't. Another team had a chance to close out a series and did. Wake-up call, Game 5, Stars Oilers. Here's Sean McDonough.
Oh, look out. It's McDavid. Hintz trying to catch him. McDavid scores! The breakaway goal for Connor McDavid. Man, this puck could have bounced to almost anybody else, but it bounces to the fastest player in the history of the game.
Oilers win it 6-3. They win the series. They now have a chance for payback as they get the Panthers in the Stanley Cup final again. It is the 5th rematch in the Stanley Cup final in the expansion era, which started in 1968. The last 2 rematches featured Sidney Crosby and Wayne Gretzky winning their first ever Stanley Cups. So Connor McDavid, the new great one, hoping to join those 2 legends. Joe Fortenbaugh, what is your best bet looking ahead to the Stanley Cup final?
Surprised to see Florida as the underdog in the series. I'll take the defending champs. Give me the Panthers at -105. 2 key reasons here. Number 1, Florida is an absolute wagon on the road this postseason. 10 road games, 8-2 with a +27 goal differential. Greeny, in 7 of those games, they've scored 5 or more goals. That's never happened in NHL history. Reason number 2, Edmonton goaltender Stuart Skinner. Every time you think he's about to turn the corner, you get a game like last night where he gave up 3 goals on 17 shots. Those will be the 2 deciding factors. Florida's the play.
And obviously the chance for McDavid to finally be crowned at the top. Joe Fortenbaugh says, not so fast, my friend. We have much more on the hoops and the hockey, but back to the football in a moment. Coming up, it was a free fall to the 5th, but a Shedeur about to rise to number 1. One of our voices will tell you what the ideal quarterback situation is for the Browns, and I'll tell you right now, we're back on Get Up. Let's do a fun Flashback Friday, shall we? This was the day that our beloved Adrian Wojnarowski retired from ESPN. Adam Schefter went on NBA Today and said this.
I'm going to take the New York Knicks versus the Oklahoma City Thunder, and I'm going to crown Oklahoma as the new NBA champion. And if they do go ahead and win it, I will officially be applying to take over Woj's job and become the new NBA insider.
Is there anything that man can't do? I ask you. How about Graziano? Your reaction?
I mean, that's why he is who he is, man. Like, that's it. Like, he's months ahead of the rest of us, as usual.
Adam Schefter, maybe look, it could still happen. We'll see. The Knicks need 2 more wins for that to come entirely true, but it's not impossible. Okay, let me get back to the NFL here. Earlier in the show, we did an NFC edition of Are You Convinced? Let's look at a couple of AFC storylines this morning. Mike T, you're my general manager. Are you convinced Shedeur Sanders will start for the Browns this season?
Yes, from snap one, day one, he absolutely should start for a number of reasons. He should compete with Dylan Gabriel. I think he's a better player. Candidly, I don't think it's that close. And at the end of the year, the Cleveland Browns need to know what they have in Shedeur Sanders because they're going to have a top 5 pick. They have Jacksonville's first-round pick. If Jacksonville struggles, which I think they will, there's, as you know, Greeny, loaded quarterbacks in 2026. They need to know what their quarterback in the future looks like. Joe Flacco is a great backup, and at some point, trade Kenny Pickett.
Graz, what would Cleveland's ideal quarterback scenario be?
I think it'd be to be able to pick whoever they want in next year's draft. I mean, look, like Shedeur Sanders was picked 2 rounds after Dylan Gabriel. He's 4th on their depth chart right now. I'm not saying it's impossible for him to move up and get some starts, but I don't think the Browns are looking at it right now on May 31st the way that Mike T says. I think, you know, first of all, they're going to try and win games. If Joe Flacco or Kenny Pickett gives them the best chance to win week 1, I think that's who will start. But they liked Dylan Gabriel 2 rounds more than they liked Shedeur Sanders. I would think he's got a chance to get the first look if they're trying to figure out rookies that they need to learn things about this season.
Mike T, just quickly, what he's saying makes sense. I get it. I was there. I saw them draft Dylan Gabriel ahead of Shedeur Sanders, quite literally, and all I do is aggregate information before the draft. I had never seen anyone project that. Not one evaluator had projected Dillon Gabriel to go ahead of Shedeur Sanders, which is why I remain so puzzled by the way that broke down. Give me your sense. If this season doesn't start out looking like they're going to be a contender, which it doesn't, then it doesn't figure that it makes sense that they play Joe Flacco a whole lot this year. He's 40 years old. So I like your scenario there, Mike T.
Yeah, and what Graz is saying is very logical, which is Dillon Gabriel's a third rounder, and he should be the priority. But look, when you put the pieces together, clearly Dillon Gabriel impressed Cleveland in the pre-draft process, and I'm sure they thought there's no way Shedeur Sanders is going to be part of the mix for us once they decide not to take him in the first round. So I think that was an opportunistic pick by the Browns. But look, if you go by what you see once they start playing, and as Hembo reminded me, Shedeur Sanders led the nation in completion percentage. He's a more talented quarterback, in my opinion, and I think others. He's going to have to prove it on the field. But I think if it was a fair fight on the field, I think Shedeur beats out Dillon Gabriel. And again, Joe Flacco is going to be 40 years old. He's your perfect backup bridge quarterback. Go see what Shedeur has, then you can plan your future.
All right, that's what I expect as well. But, of course, there are a million different ways that could go. Let me go to the AFC West. The Chiefs have won that division for 9 straight seasons. Graziano, are you convinced they make it 10?
I'm not, but Greeny, you got to understand, convinced is the wrong word for me on May 31st. Like, I'm not convinced of any of this stuff. But I will say this. I think it's going to be a tougher race in the AFC West for the Chiefs than they have had in more than half a decade. The Denver Broncos are a playoff team last year that in the first game at Arrowhead that they played, they were a blocked field goal away from beating the Chiefs. They have improved significantly on defense. Their quarterback is heading into his second year. The Los Angeles Chargers, coached by Jim Harbaugh, had a great first year. They should be even better. I think those are two teams in the Chiefs division that are set up to give them a stronger push than they have gotten from anybody in quite a while.
I agree, and for what it's worth, the Raiders tend to play them tough, and I think they're going to get better with their new coach and situation there as well. Mike T, how about it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I disagree. Look, I think what Graz said, those teams are improved, but when Patrick Mahomes is protected, and it's either going to be Jaylen Brown or more likely Josh Simmons if he's healthy, Patrick Mahomes had a lot of issues with protection last year. If that's cleaned up with Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, and Rashid Rice pending suspension, this offense could get back to being the explosive offense we've seen Patrick Mahomes had a couple years ago. So I'll take Mahomes and a great offensive line, and I'll give you the rest of the division.
Okay, fair enough. Then, Mike T, let me give you one more. Josh Allen of the Bills came up one game short, as they so frequently seem to, last year. They are favored on ESPN Bet in every one of their games this season. Are you convinced they're the best team in the AFC right now?
No, but boy, it's close. I'm going to go with the Chiefs, but it's by a whisker. This team got a lot better, like you said, in the offseason. Hopefully they get something out of Joey Bosa, TJ Sanders, a good second-round pick. They brought back Tre'Davious White, drafted Max Hairston. So I think the Bills are better, Greeny. I just can't go against Patrick Mahomes with a good offensive line. I could see an AFC title game probably back in Kansas City with these two teams.
Dan?
Yeah, I mean, look, you could make a case that heading into that game last year, the AFC Championship, hey, the Bills are the better team. That doesn't mean they're going to beat the Chiefs head-to-head in a playoff game. We've seen it time and again. I think the Bills are a candidate for this. I think the Baltimore Ravens are a strong candidate for this, and obviously you can't rule out the Chiefs. But Buffalo is set up, man. Their schedule is soft. They leave their time zone exactly once all regular season. If Buffalo doesn't have the 1 seed going into the playoffs, I think they'd be a little disappointed.
Yeah, I agree. I think everything, it's sort of starting to feel like an if not now, then when situation for Josh Allen, who will be 29 years old. Let me get Joe Fortenbaugh into the conversation here. What is your best bet looking big picture at the AFC?
It's almost like we produced this segment. Bills, 7-1. I think that's the best bet. I saw them at plus 550. You give me 7-1, I'm going to make the play. It feels like it's their year. You guys just touched on it. Number one, the schedule. Second easiest in the NFL. How often does a team with a 13-4 record that went to the AFC Championship game get the second easiest schedule in the NFL? Greeny, all due respect, you know the division's not going to offer any resistance whatsoever. So worst case, they're hosting a playoff game in the opening round. But the key to this entire analysis, Kansas City's no longer gatekeeping the AFC. Very few people will agree with that. You heard everything from Tannenbaum, and you heard everything from Graz. The one thing you didn't hear, 17 straight wins in one-score games, 12-0 last year. That's going to fall off, and when it does, they won't be in the way of the Bills. This is the year they get it done.
I agree with the pick, and I find it hilarious that you feel the need to add with all due respect, based upon my fandom of the Jets, as though somehow that's a personal insult to me that the Jets will not put up a fight in the division. All right, we have 2 Women's College World Series win-or-go-home games tonight on ESPN and ESPN+. We got Tennessee taking on Florida, 7 Eastern, then Ole Miss squaring off against Oregon. Good fun in the College World Series coming your way on this Friday night. Coming up, it was over. If it goes well, it was my idea. We're going to blame Fink if this goes badly. That's John Fink. He's here with us today. That's a flattering shot. Yesterday was the annual cheese rolling event.
This is actually CTE waiting to happen.
Markeith, you get your NFL question. To RC it goes. Go.
Watch out. I'm Marquis.
Yes, good point.
He's the older brother. I'm a smarter brother.
Who's going to be the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Cavaliers?
The starting quarterback of the Cleveland Cavaliers, Donovan Mitchell.
Cleveland Browns. My bad.
You do a lot of basketball, Bert. That's all right.
Which quarterback lost the most games in his final season?
I'm just going to guess Testaverde.
The question is awful. The answer is even worse. Steve Spurrier.
You got to be kidding me with
It's a terrible.
We got to get him out. I got the front. Get the back. Get him out.
That's
how we do it in New York.
I didn't like the question, Greeny, but I can't condone beating up nerds.
Get him out of here. Who would have thought Hembo was so dense, guys? Taking on Barkley thighs. I'm like, what's going on?
He was a lot heavier than him.
Yeah, leg day. He played baseball. He played college baseball. People don't know that.
No, I understand.
Why would people know that? But no, he wears. I know. I'm surprised you don't know that because he wears the tightest pants of any human being I know. It's quite remarkable. This is like back in the old days.
All right.
Okay, no. Let's not do this. Oh my God. We're trying to keep our license here, folks. All right. With that, we welcome you back. We are coming to you live above the Heineken River Deck at Pier 17. I think Hembo's had a few too many of those. We got a great game last night.
Still going.
We got a critical game last night at the Garden. Knicks trying to keep their season alive behind their oft-maligned superstar, Jalen Brunson. Sounded like he heard the criticism, Jay, because he was brilliant early and often.
Just a guy that came out and set the tone, not also with his passing, but his score making. He was aggressive right from the beginning.
Yeah, he scored 14 points in the first quarter, and on the other end, they were making life miserable, Allen, for Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah, no, he was in cuffs. It was like NYPD came in and locked him up early in that game. Mikal Bridges, an honorary officer, because he was doing it all over the court. The Knicks' help defense was fantastic. These are bad shots he's forcing up. And that's exactly what the Knicks had to do to slow him and that offense down.
Yeah, and there's Brunson on the other end. So the Knicks a 4-point lead after one. And then in the second quarter, Michael Wilbon, it was Karl Anthony Towns who took over the game.
Took over the game, even though about an hour and 15 before the game, we didn't know if he was going to play, and I don't know if he knew he was going to give it a shot. But Jay Will and I were on court talking to people who were positioned to know, and they didn't know.
He had 17 and 10 in the first half. Knicks an 11-point lead. And then coming out in the third quarter, it was Brunson, Jay, who set the tone again.
I said first quarter and third quarter is where the Knicks have had some lulls, but that was not the case with Jalen Brunson. He decided to put this team on his back in defining moments of the game.
Doing it inside, doing it outside. The Knicks would open a 16-point lead. And then, Allen, the Knicks defense, which gave up 130 points the other night, so much better.
Help here.
Give me that
help here.
Mitch
spiked that into the baseline, and you see Halliburton getting up slow. He was feeling bodies all night long.
Halliburton only had 8 points last night. Meanwhile, it was Brunson on the other end in the mid-range. He would put the Knicks up by 18 there, and then it's more from Karl Anthony Towns plus the foul. So
that knee ain't hurt. That knee ain't hurt on offense.
Towns 24 points and 13 rebounds. Brunson 32 points and 5 assists. The Knicks live to fight another night, and that night will be tomorrow in Indiana. With their performances last night, Brunson and Towns become the second pair of teammates to score 20 points in each of the first 5 games of a conference final. Look at the company they now keep. That's Shaq and Kobe, who did it against Sacramento in 2002. Lakers would win that series in 7. Here was Brunson, meanwhile, after the game, on out-dueling his counterpart.
I mean, I backed against the wall, and so I wasn't thinking I need to play better than him. I was just thinking I need to help my team win, and that's my mindset every time I'm on the court, just helping my team win.
Every game is do or die, you know, so we don't bring that energy, we don't bring that execution, our season will be over.
And instead, it is not over. Yeah.
Mike, I am in heaven. Do you know how much I enjoy watching point guard duels? I mean, think about what Game 4 was, and then the contrast for Tyrese Halliburton and how they put him in handcuffs and how he didn't live up to the expectation, not being aggressive. What Wendy was talking about in games where he scores 20 or more points, or 30 and 13, they cut off the head of the snake, and then vice versa. Just the level of aggression that we saw from Jalen Brunson. Alan, we talked a lot about this in Game 4. Down the stretch, and I did not think Jalen Brunson was aggressive. He made the right play, but sometimes you talk about elite players making the play for themselves, not automatically the right play.
What he could control was come out and take control of the game.
Yeah.
He did control that.
He did it.
That had nothing to do with the Pacers. That had to do with him and them. And let's give some credit to Tom Thibodeau. They had to understand when they walked on the floor yesterday, we've got to get control of this game. And there's one guy to do it, and it's Brunson, and he did.
Listen, let's put Wendy in the conversation. Windman, Brunson not the only Knick who had been hearing some criticism. There's been a lot of talk about Rick Carlisle out-coaching Tom Thibodeau in this series. Well, you know what Tibbs did a sensational job of last night? Staggering the minutes. You talked about it earlier in the week, Wendy. Staggering the minutes. It was Brunson's turn, then it was Cat's turn, and they were very seldom out there together to be the defensive liability they have shown so far in this series.
Right, and they also gave Towns the opportunity to have the ball at the top of the floor where he was willing to attack. He had 8 layups and dunks last night, which powered their offense. But to me, the Knicks' offense is rarely the story. Brunson has normalized offensive greatness. We expect and know that he's going to be great on offense. The story of this game to me was Brunson on defense. The Pacers have targeted him throughout this series, frankly, with a lot of success. Last night, he did not allow it. He was much more aggressive dealing with the screens, fighting over them, taking on the challenge. And look, the first 4 games of this series, pretty much the defining thing for the Pacers offensively was the success they had against Brunson. They shot 68% targeting him as the primary defender in games 1 through 4. Last night, just 3 of 14. And I think the 3 of 14 number says it enough. But the 14, they obviously, their number one priority is to go after him. He handled it. He also destroyed Aaron Nesmith. He went 5 and 5 against him when he had the ball. When Nesmith had the ball, he did a great job fighting him. Mikal Bridges did a great job fighting Halliburton. All in all, a terrific game plan and terrific execution by the Knicks.
Brunson was tremendous last night. Yes, Al.
Yeah, you asked a question, I think it was last week, about Brunson, and like, how would you describe him? And I said, he's a winner, right? This is what he does. And so these are the situations following a loss in the playoffs. The Knicks are 6-1. Brunson's averaging in those games 32 and 7 on 50% shooting. He takes it upon himself to make sure that you stop the bleeding right away. They don't go on losing streaks. Their longest losing streak in the playoffs were the first 2 games of this series.
Right.
And that's basically it. He also understood first quarters, starter games have been a problem, starter second halves have been a problem. What did he do last night? He was dominant first quarter, start of the game, and started the second half. He recognized the problem, and he took care of it.
This is a triumph for Greeny, who ought to feel better today, because he was annoyed yesterday at any local criticism of Jalen Brunson. And by the way, you were totally justified.
Yes.
And Brunson did answer it. And again, but the playoffs are yin and yang, back and forth. If anybody thought Halliburton was going to go Oscar and do that again, they're not paying attention to the history of playoff basketball. Now let's pay attention again. What happens if this thing goes back and forth? And yes, a great team can get on a roll. But as Wendy's pointed out, do we think there's any real separation between these Knicks and these Pacers? No, there isn't.
Yeah.
So what's the back and forth suggest we're going to get tomorrow?
Well, you tell me. There's a feature we do here frequently called bad game or bad sign. I'm going to flip it around. Was last night a good game or a good sign for the Knicks?
Both. Both. But again, that does not preclude Indiana from flipping that tomorrow. They're going to have to. They know it. They've got the pressure. I think tomorrow's the best game we see in this series.
I guess what I mean by that specifically is what worked for the Knicks last night, particularly defensively. Does it work for them again, or is there an adjustment you see that Rick Carlisle can make to flip that around?
I mean, I see 3, 4, 5 adjustments you can make off that.
Give me one. Give me the first big one.
Set a screen in the backcourt. Like Miles Bridges.
The key to this game for you, for those who didn't see it earlier, was the Knicks picking up Halliburton in the backcourt and making it hard on him.
Turning him a couple of times. By the way, initiating the offense at 15, 16 on the shot clock as opposed to 21 is a drastic difference. It's why you saw points per possession as less efficient in the half court. But I will say this, Miles Bridges has not been able to get going in this series at all. He has not been able to see the ball go into the rim. So what I would do is I would set a screen with him in the backcourt and allow him as a drag person, and that gives Halliburton room to play north to south. If you allow Halliburton to play north to south, that is his game. As my man has said here, Mike Woodbine was talking about that. Halliburton's game is not Barry Sanders east to west. You slow him down, you make him efficient, that's not his strength.
How about Halliburton, Wendy? He's coming off in Game 4, what was one of the truly great games in postseason history.
Miles Turner, I was saying
Miles Turner is who you meant. We knew. Wendy, Tyrese Halliburton, a 30-point triple-double with 0 turnovers. It had quite literally never been done in postseason history. Last night, it could not have been a more different story. What did you see, and what do you expect tomorrow night?
Yeah, so Pacers fans would tell you that sometimes this happens to Halliburton. He's had 13 games now this season where he scored in single digits. This wasn't even his lowest scoring playoff game this postseason. He had a 4-point game in a dud game against the Cavs in the last round. This sometimes happens. He sometimes has low energy games where his scoring abandons him, and the Pacers are 3-10 in those games. So it isn't unusual for him to do this. The key to me about stopping Halliburton is stopping his speed. You know, going into this game, the first 4 games of this series, the Knicks averaged 5 more turnovers per game than the Pacers. Last night they had 5 fewer. So you take 5 and 5, that's a 10 possession swing where Halliburton isn't able to go. Halliburton also had 10 fewer defensive rebounds last night than in Game 4. Right there, I just highlighted 20 possessions between the 2 games where Halliburton isn't able to get charged up. Part of dealing with him is not letting him get out on the break. The Knicks did that last night. If they can replicate that, they open up their chances.
Jay, ask the question that you were asking me a minute ago.
Well, I mean, I know the topic is going to be today. You can't run away from it. Like, people say, oh, is that a superstar that only takes 7 shots? My answer is yes, I still think he's a superstar. I think the designing of the strategy to hinder him was significant. Yes, now, also, a lot of that is on him as well. He has to look at the basket, Mike, right? But I still think he is the engine for this team that gets them going offensively. You take away the head of the snake, you take away their team. That, to me, still signifies he's a superstar, though.
This, just like last night had to start with Jalen Brunson. Tomorrow's got to start with Tyrese Halliburton.
Yes.
And it's up to Rick Carlisle, who said this, and you pointed this out. Rick's comments last night where he has to help his star. I'm sorry. His history as a coach, and particularly one where he's wearing a ring on a finger, a championship ring, is that Rick Carlisle knows how to do that. And it's going to be up to them, maybe in-game adjustments for the Knicks to figure out what to do. But do I expect Halliburton to just sort of, you know, slowly step into Game 6 tomorrow at home? I do not.
Yeah, that was Game 3 to Game 4. Rick Carlisle said the same thing after Game 3 with Tyrese Halliburton, who did not have a good Game 3. So, and you saw the results in Game 4.
I want to show you something else that happened last night. Jay Will and Michael Wilbon were down on the floor doing SportsCenter and other reporting for us at ESPN. And Jay Will was on the 6 o'clock SportsCenter doing an interview, and this happened.
This dude gave me a bow. He doesn't know this. I got 6 stitches in the left eye.
Wow. Look at that. Shaq!
You caress my head like that in public, Shaq.
Yeah.
Don't treat me like Kevin Hart.
Like it's a magic 8-ball.
A magic 8-ball. Pretty good line from that.
It just comes out like being victimized by Shaquille O'Neal. He once did that to me in a live shot and picked me up by the shoulders as if I was a little child.
Yeah.
Just because he just...
I thought he was going to come over and say something.
Jay, your face was great.
I didn't know what to do.
There's nothing you can do with Shaq.
Shaq is doing some weird
stuff,
man.
That was admiration, Jay. He was admiring.
It's so great.
You were actually telling a story there about him having knocked you unconscious, right?
Yeah, well, I came down. It was my first year in the league. I came down and I literally got a rebound. And he ripped out my hands and bowled me, and I ended up having to get sniffing salt. And I woke up and I had to get 6 stitches in my left eye. I literally have it.
Still there.
It's the
and there's the
evidence of Shaquille.
But at least you got that really nice shiny head. Though.
I could watch that all
I
do not want to watch that all day.
I could watch this all day. I genuinely could watch this all day.
Weird.
You have soft hands?
So much
Come on,
Windy from the top.
I'm not on that team, man.
So much more on the game last night. You'll hear from Charles Barkley and more. Plus, a little football will sneak in. The D in Big D stands for Dak's development. You'll hear from the new coach of the Cowboys on why we need to see some of that. All more. And again, just show it to me one more time for good. Come on, big fella. Come on, man. Come on,
I told you last night this was going viral. I told you that in real time.
What kind of lotion do you use?
Come on, guys.
It's time to feed the dogs real food, not highly processed pellets. The farmer's dog is fresh food made with whole meat and veggies. It's not dry food. It's not wet food. It's just real food. It's an idea whose time has come.
We asked people who said they've had Domino's stuffed crust pizza before to compare it to our new stuffed crust.
That's better than the one they have currently.
Only Domino's has never had stuffed crust before.
Are you serious?
Until now. Introducing Domino's new and first ever stuffed crust pizza. Try one for the first time tonight.
This is phenomenal.
All my ladies roll your deal like this. When you move your body, feel confident. All my ladies try this deal real quick. Let your body how you see fit. My neck, your back.
Can't get up, and if it seemed like Tyrese Halliburton was in handcuffs last night, it's because SVU was in the building. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Olivia Benson and Amanda Rollins cheering the Knicks on last night. Mariska Hargitay, my single favorite TV star of all time, who was at all of the Knicks games. But my question is, where was Finn? Where was Sergeant Tutuola? Where was Carisi? ADA Carisi?
I didn't know this about you.
Yeah.
I am an SVU lunatic.
Me too.
I've seen all of the 500+ episodes.
Yes, me too. Absolutely. It is absolutely. Did you know that Taylor Swift named her cat Olivia Benson?
No.
How about that? Yes, I know. Did you know that Tom Rinaldi, formerly of ESPN, was the best man in Mariska Hargitay's wedding?
No.
Yes. Oh, I've got Mariska trivia for days.
Really?
And we'll do that on another show, another time. Okay, who says that we don't ever do things besides sports on this show? Where's Graziano? All right, Danny, let's run the hurry up. There's a bunch of news in the NFL. It's an all-defense edition starting in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, a couple of guys looking for new contracts. T.J. Watt has 1 year left on his deal, about $21 million. And when he signed his extension a few years back, he kind of held in to training camp, showed up, but didn't work. Steelers get these deals done generally later in the offseason. So I would imagine T.J. Watt gets a contract extension at some time between now and the start of September. A guy who is watching closely is Trey Hendrickson, because Trey Hendrickson's dispute with the Bengals has obviously been very public. He's making about $16 million this year. He wants a new deal, has said he won't play on his current one. T.J. Watt is 2 months older than Trey Hendrickson. So if the issue the Bengals have with extending Hendrickson is that he's 30 and going to be 31 this year, he'll be watching closely to see what kind of deal T.J. Watt gets that might inform those negotiations as we move forward. And then we get to Dallas and Micah Parsons, who's younger and better at this point in his career than either of those guys, and is likely to get an extension this offseason that makes him the highest paid defensive player in the league. We know that he and Jerry Jones have had conversations. We know the deal is not yet done. We know that Micah has been at some, not all, of the voluntary portion of this year's off-season, but Micah Parsons still looking for a deal. This is a deal I think both sides agree will get done at some point this off-season. I don't think we have to worry about a Micah holdout in training camp.
Okay, that'll be one to keep a close eye on, obviously. And while Parsons may not have been at OTAs, the new Dallas head coach, Brian Schottenheimer, obviously was. And he had interesting comments yesterday about Dak Prescott having room to grow as he, Dak, enters his 10th year in the NFL.
I think they all are. I mean, I think Dak is in the developmental phase, and that sounds crazy for a guy that's played that much, but, like, there's things that we're tweaking with Dak. The minute these quarterbacks think that they've figured it all out, that's when it's probably time for them to think about doing something different, because the way defenses attack in this league, it makes it almost impossible to ever relax.
Here's what I would say. A, that's obviously just the way, that's what coaches say, right? So, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and make a big deal out of it. The second piece of it, Mike T, is you know Brian Schottenheimer's history as well as anybody does, and so do I. You had him with the Jets. Everywhere he goes, the quarterbacks love him, right? He got along extraordinarily well with Phillip Rivers and Drew Brees and Mark Sanchez and now Dak Prescott. And Mike T, that's a big part of this story.
Without question, Brian's done a great job, as you said, for multiple decades with this position, and there's no way they're going to promote Brian Schottenheimer without Dak signing off on it, as Grouse, reminded us that he's making $60 million a year. So when you look at this offense, you go back to 2021, 37 touchdown passes. That was in the prime of Amari Cooper with CeeDee Lamb. I think they got a lot better. I think Javonte Williams is a good back. You have a highly motivated George Pickens in the last year of his deal, wanting a new deal, and CeeDee Lamb with Jay Ferguson. If Tyler Booker makes a difference up front, this should be a top 10 offense. And look, I don't know if they go all the way to the playoffs, but this offense is going to be fun to watch. I think Dak, if healthy, will have an outstanding year.
Here's what I'm going to say, Mr. Wilbon, and that is that I have been at times, it has been suggested that perhaps I talk about the Cowboys a lot.
No.
And whether fairly or unfairly, they've come up a time or two on this show. I think right now they're actually under the radar, which would seem almost impossible for the Cowboys, but because the Eagles win the Super Bowl and the Commanders have this dynamic superstar young quarterback, and the Cowboys only won 7 games last year and hired a coach that people didn't get all excited. I'm telling you right now, Brian Schottenheimer is going to be a good NFL head coach, and the Cowboys are going to be a better team this year than I feel like the expectation is. What do you think?
I don't.
No.
I don't know anything about Brian Schottenheimer. I'm exaggerating that.
Right.
We don't know what he's going to be up to. We talk about people moving over one spot from the corner office to the corner office. There's too much we don't know about that. There's also 2 teams that are better positioned to have good seasons in the Cowboys division. You mentioned them. The defending champion Eagles and the Commanders. So, and the Giants can't be as dreadful as they've been, can they? Well, maybe they can.
They probably can.
There's some road games. There's at Broncos. There's at Lions. I think there's at Bears. I think the Cowboys are sort of a 10-ish win team. Well, perhaps. And Dak is coming back off this injury. So there are a lot of questions I gotta see answered.
10 wins, Dan Graziano.
Maybe
that sort of makes my point for me. The over/under, the win total at ESPN Bet on the Cowboys is 7.5. They won 7 games without Dak Prescott last year, Dan.
Right, and when he has been healthy for full seasons, they have generally been a playoff team, I think all but 1 year. So, yeah, getting Dak Prescott back, getting a lot of guys back healthy on the defensive side of the ball, adding George Pickens, if that young offensive line can do what they think it can, I think this is a better team than people are giving it credit for.
Well, that's what I think, but I'm not the expert on this stuff. Fortenbaugh is. Joe Fortenbaugh, our betting expert. Again, the Cowboy win total is 7.5 at ESPN Bet. What do you think of it?
You nailed it. The number's cheap. They are juicing it to the over at -145, which means you're risking $145 to win 100. I would play the over. I think the key point starts with Prescott. This is a team that won 7 games last year, despite their franchise quarterback missing 9. Let's not say he plays 17 games this year, but if you get 15 out of them, 14 out of them, you're in a better spot. Wide receiver unit's better, offensive line is better, running back position is better. A lot of this factors in the toughness of the division. I think Washington's going to take a step back. A lot of people are high on the Commanders this year. There's some red flags to indicate they're going to be good, not great. Cowboys can get them once. They can win 8 games this year.
And for what it's worth, we see 3-team playoff divisions. I'm saying that terribly. We've seen many times where divisions send 3 teams to the playoffs, including last year. The NFC North had 3 teams in the playoffs. I could easily see it happening with the NFC East this year. We'll go back to the NBA in just a moment. The Knicks' 2 biggest stars saved their season last night. Jay Will's going to show you exactly why Cat was so dominant and why the Pacers are to blame for it. But speaking of Jay, here we go. Michael Wilbon, you're going to love this trivia question for Jay and Alan today. Who owns the highest career scoring average in the playoffs among left-handed shooters? The answer is next.
The father of a lefty. I should know this.
He's got it.
The DQ Sauced and Tossed Chicken Strip Basket comes in your choice of honey barbecue or new buffalo, layered with flavor from the top, bottom, and everywhere in between. Delicious from every angle. That's the Sauced and Tossed Chicken Strip Basket. Get yours now only at DQ.
Looks like we've told people Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance so you only pay for what you need. For the last time.
Huh. Shallow. Only pay for what you need. Liberty, 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 liberty.
I earned my degree online at Southern New Hampshire University.
It's possible to raise a family, to pursue other things, and still further your education.
And you can do it too, from all over the country.
I live in Massachusetts.
I live in Texas.
I live in California.
I live in Pennsylvania.
I'm from Florida.
I'm from Virginia.
In North Carolina. And St. Louis. I'm from Tennessee.
And I'm...
I wish everyone could have seen how much thought is being put into the answer to this trivia question. Wilbon loves this stuff, but it's for Jay and Alan. Here we go. Which player has the highest career scoring average? But 10 games is nothing. I mean, that's like one good postseason. Who owns the highest career scoring average in the playoffs among left-handed shooters?
So I firmly believe Jalen Brunson is too obvious. It's too obvious. And yesterday was obvious, so it's not today, because he changes it up. Okay. David Robinson is a lefty.
Yes.
But like you have to, the most prolific scorer that I can remember has to be James Harden. It has to be James Harden.
What do you think, Alan?
I'm going to go with Brunson.
Has to be Harden.
The correct answer is Jalen Brunson.
I told you.
Jalen Brunson is right. The list.
What's the list?
The list is excellent. It is Jalen Brunson, followed by James Harden, followed by Isaiah Thomas.
Isaiah's not left-handed.
But no, not
the
Isaiah.
Not Isaiah Lord Thomas, not our Isaiah Thomas.
Chicago.
The more recent Isaiah Thomas.
Okay.
Followed by Wilbon Billy Cunningham. What the hell is Hembo doing? Hembo is still doing squats.
Right. Hey, this guy's unbelievable.
This is ridiculous.
Trying to get a pants deal.
Yes. Seriously. Get that man some sweats.
Who's number 5?
Other notables: Dave Cowens, Bob Lanier, Gail Goodrich, David Robinson, Willis Reed, and Bill Russell. I'll give you the list, Michael, when I get back over there. Okay.
Yeah, great list, Hembo. Great list.
So Brunson is the winner.
Okay, thick thighs.
Brunson was brilliant last night, but so was his teammate, Karl Anthony Towns. He made a huge difference in this game last night. Take us through some of the tape, guys.
All right, number 1, first off, you're going to see just an easy entry pass. I do not know why Pascal Siakam does not get up here and deny him the ball. But watch, once he's able to catch the ball here, he turns, he faces, and then when he turns and he faces, he's taking a survey. Look at all this space, all that real estate, right? He's not in help, he's in denial. Ben Shepherd's down the corner. I'm going to gobble up all this space. But here's also what you need to pay attention to. As Karl Anthony Towns puts his head down and drives to the rim, which is what you want him to do, I want you to watch as the play develops. Watch Ben Mathurin. He's in help position right here. All you have to do. These are the slight adjustments that you're going to see Carlisle make. Just step in. Step in, sacrifice your body, take a charge, call it a day. It's going down the other way.
By the way, Jay, real quick, DeLon Wright's telling you, I am not getting this ball.
He's not. Hands on his knees. Great.
That's great observation. He's like, I'm not in this play.
He's not getting the ball.
You know.
Hands on his knees. Not even ready to catch the shot. But look at all space attacking. This is a play right here. As the play goes, whoop, Matador defense, drives right by, layup. Next possession. A lot of these things that you're going to see Karl Anthony Towns playing extremely well. In transition, as the play develops, small. Look at this. Once again, space.
Broadway.
So much space. Attacking all this. All right, right here in the corner. OB, what are you going to do? And these are the little plays. You love this as a Knicks fan. Gobble up this space. But Obi Toppin, why are you staying home on Josh Hart? Why? Him shooting a 3 is a win. Step in this little paint area here, sacrifice your body, and take a charge on Karl Anthony Towns that is keeping his head down, driving out of control. What does Obi Toppin do? We're going to put it in slow-mo so you can see. Late to get there. Boom. Easy layup. And one yell it. So Karl Anthony Towns, great. But so many adjustments that Rick Carl is going to make his team have.
That's an outstanding tape. And for those who have been watching the series closely or know the Knicks well, and Alan, no one knows them better than you do, look at the lineup that's on the floor with Towns. There's not another offensive threat
I was looking at that
while this is going
the
on.
help defense, is as you were pointing all that stuff, I was looking at the defenders and who they were up on top of, and you're thinking to yourself, not a shooter, not a shooter. You should know that in the scouting report. They had the court spread, but they didn't have it spread with shooters. That the Pacers were taking away the threes, the kickouts, and they were leaving the middle of the lane wide open. You don't get open roads like that in New York City. I mean, you never see it like that. It's wide open.
And Wendy said that Karl Anthony Towns had 8 dunks or layups last night in Game 6, guys. He might get one, but the next couple of times, they're going to see a lot of Indiana Pacers step in, taking those charges to try to draw those offensive fouls.
But yes, clearly, foul trouble on Karl Anthony Towns has been a story of his entire career and figures to be a big story tomorrow night.
It always has to be. It's always something you're going to watch with him. And if they stagger the minutes, it's important because when Jalen Brunson goes to the bench, you still need a primary scorer. This lineup has been working for him in particular because it allows him to be a primary scorer, but he can't if he's in foul trouble.
And also, how does that lineup work when you have no shooters on the perimeter? That's sometimes you have
because there was 17 seconds on the shot clock. He's not hesitating. Get him the ball, go.
But I'm saying, as a Pacer, if you're a Pacer fan, you're watching saying, why are you not in gaps? Like, there are no shooters. Force him to kick the ball out. Make him see multiple balls the same way they make Jalen Brunson see multiple balls.
I love these tapes. It gives you something to watch for tomorrow night. Coming up, we will answer the biggest question about Game 6. But let me jump back to the NFL quickly for a game of slump or jump featuring some of the league's second-year quarterbacks. I got Graziano, I got Mike T, I got Wilbon today. Graz, do you expect a slump or a jump from young Jaden Daniels?
I say jump. I think what Washington is doing around Jaden Daniels is every right move. They're adding a left tackle in Laramie Tunsil. They bring in Deebo Samuel, who I think helps the passing game. They get a little better in the run game. That offense could be even more electrifying than it was for most of last year. I think Dan Quinn is a guy that took the Falcons to the Super Bowl in his second season in Atlanta, heading into his second season in Washington. I don't see why hopes can't be very, very high.
Tannenbaum, let's talk about Bo Nix in Denver. Are you expecting a slump or a jump in his second year?
Greeny, I'm going jump, and if it was a leap, I would say it's a leap. He's going to be massively improved for a number of reasons. First full offseason with Sean Payton, look for the turnovers to come down. R.J. Harvey's second-round pick, Greeny, you know, outstanding receiver out of the backfield. Think Alvin Kamara. And then Evan Ingram, great pass-receiving tight end. Look for his completion percentage to go up. Bo Nix has a great second year.
I agree, like they made the playoffs last year. And then Graz back to Chicago. Caleb Williams, slump or jump?
Jump. It's all optimism here from the NFL crew on May 31st. I think Caleb Williams adding the coach and Ben Johnson, who's there to make him better. They added more pieces around him. This time last year, we were talking about how many great pieces there were around him in the passing game. They beefed up the offensive line. Caleb Williams is in a great position to make a jump in year 2.
I agree. And so, Michael Wilbon, I've been waiting all week to ask you this question because I think it's an interesting one. For those who don't know, Michael is, well, everyone knows this. You are the mayor of Chicago, or the king of Chicago sports, and all the rest of that, and a Bears fan all of your life. What would constitute, in your opinion, a successful season for this team and this young quarterback this year?
Well, I want to see gradual improvement, but consistent improvement from the start of the season. And that can be tough when you've got a new head coach, one who's so dramatically different from what Caleb Williams had a year ago. 10 wins. I'd love to see them in the playoffs, but their schedule is brutal.
Yeah.
The Bears, I don't know how you finish in last place and wind up with the schedule that the Bears have wound up with, but it's a difficult schedule. In a difficult division, obviously.
Yeah, very.
They need to take advantage of the Minnesota Vikings right off the bat. They get a rookie quarterback making his first start in Minnesota, except it's in Chicago, and so you feel on a Monday night, you've got to win that game and start that season differently. But Caleb Williams, you're going to see dramatic improvement from protection. He was sacked 68 times last year. That number needs to be cut in half. Sounds too optimistic, but dramatically. So I shouldn't look at a number of wins. They can flirt with the playoffs. If 10 wins can get you in, I expect the Bears to be right in that number.
Mike, see, this is the part of this that I find so interesting, and it's why I was so opposed to what they have done in candidly with each of their last 3 rookie quarterbacks, and that is having people in place who were needed to win to save their jobs. Now that they have people in who have job security, my answer to that question is, their record this year, while I understand it won't feel that way at the time, is of secondary importance. You need to develop Caleb Williams into a star quarterback in the NFL. You need to do anything and everything in order to accomplish that. Because if you do, look at Buffalo, look at Cincinnati, look at Kansas City. If you have a great quarterback, you're going to be in it for a decade. And one of those years, you probably wind up winning it. I think it's more important that they develop him this year than it is that they make the playoffs.
Yeah, Greeny, I think Michael Wilbon put it well. It's going to be a slow, steady trajectory. Bill Barnwell had a really good statistic, which is Jared Goff led the league in play action, about 36% last year, as Ben Johnson was the play caller. Caleb Williams was third from the bottom. It takes a minute for a quarterback to be comfortable with his back to the line of scrimmage, which is what good play action passing does. So look for him, look for them to do that a lot now. Preseason, early in the season may be bumpy, but if Caleb Williams is comfortable with his back to the defense, it will open up the offense and let it be that much more explosive.
Graziano, final word.
If the Bears fans feel the way about Caleb Williams at the end of this year that the Patriots fans did about Drake May at the end of last year, then this season will have been a success for Caleb Williams, for Ben Johnson, and the Chicago Bears.
I think that's exactly right. And by the way, Dan, I never like to correct anybody. It's May 30th, not May 31st, but you were very close. Okay, we have two Women's College World Series winner-go-home games tonight on ESPN and ESPN+. Tennessee takes on Florida at 7 Eastern, and then it's Ole Miss squaring off against Oregon. Coming up, so much more on the Knicks. Is what a series this is turning out to be. You will hear a blunt warning for Charles Barkley to Indiana. You don't want to miss it. Next. Back on Get Up, Game 6. Knicks Pacers tomorrow night in Indy. Home team a 3.5-point favorite. They're minus 375 favorites now to win the series. Knicks are plus 290 to complete the comeback. In the postgame, here was Charles Barkley last night on Game 6.
The Pacers still in control, but I will say this. Say it. Say it, boy. Say it. If they don't win Game 6, they're going to come back to New York. It is a must-win for the Pacers. Wow. Because if they come back here, they're going to get another ass kicking like they did tonight.
As only he can. The Windman is up with us early this morning, all morning long. Michael, that's your guy, Charles Barkley. Is he right? If the Pacers are going to win this series, do they have to do it tomorrow night?
That makes all the sense in the world, except I was courtside when the Indiana Pacers came in and won Game 7 against the New York Knicks.
95. And last year,
been there, seen it.
Last year, too.
Courtside.
Yeah.
And they eliminated them last year, but the Game 7 part of it, I understand what Charles is saying. And that's my instant emotional reaction going into tomorrow night. But this series has confounded us. None of it makes sense.
Right.
Well, that's what I'm saying, Mike. Your first line was, that all makes sense, but nothing about this series has made sense.
It hasn't.
So I have no idea.
In reality,
the
reality is the Knicks face the most pressure because they're facing elimination and they're going on the road. That is everything there. You want to, as the Pacers, just put this series away for the obvious reasons of the longer it goes, the worse it gets for you, and it opens up the opportunity for injury and other things, right? You want to put this thing away at home. That's what you expect. And if you're the Knicks, you're still fighting for your life, not only for one game, but even if you win that one, you're still fighting for your life for another.
So we don't know what's going to happen, obviously, but we do know why, or at least we can project why. Wendy, what is the most important factor tomorrow night? What, in your mind, will decide Game 6 in Indiana tomorrow night?
You're going to see right away what the pace of the play is. The faster the game is, it favors the Pacers. They want to speed everything up. They want Halliburton on the move. They want more possessions. The slower the game is, favors the Knicks. The last two games that the Knicks have won, or the 2 games the Knicks have won, the Pacers scored 100 points and 94 points. So if you get to the end of the first quarter and the Knicks are ahead 38-37, even if they're ahead, that's a bad sign. You get to the end of the first quarter and the Pacers are ahead 23-22, that's a good sign for the Knicks. The pace of the game will determine who's in control.
I love that. I love giving people things to watch for early in the game. And Jay Will, you did a great tape earlier for those just joining us here of how the Knicks pressured Tyrese Halliburton in the backcourt and it impacted everything the Pacers wanted to do offensively. What exactly is the counter to that? What is the adjustment Rick Carlisle made?
Well, yesterday, Mike and I talked about them putting pressure in the backcourt. They did that. Now I think you'll see a counter with a lot of screens in the backcourt that will open up, especially in Miles Turner. If Karl-Anthony Towns is guarding a guy like Miles Turner or Pascal Siakam, whoever he is guarding will be up in the front court setting that screen, and then that will be a downhill battle between Tyrese Halliburton and Karl-Anthony Towns. And there's no way Karl-Anthony Towns, with his knee, could be up that far. It's going to create a lot of
It'll take so much out of him to do it. By the way, the Pacers had 20 turnovers last night. Can't have it.
That number.
That number's got to come down. If the Pacers are in the 12 to 13 turnover range, they're going to win the game. But you get up near 20 again, and the Knicks are doing that, that means Halliburton has committed a lot of those, the Knicks are going to be in good.
That's the stat to watch in this game, absolutely, because that was why they had less points per possession. That's why their offense looked slow. That's why they didn't get to 100 points, because they had so many turnovers and it took away from their offense. And if that happens again in Game 6, we'll be back for a Game 7.
Everything that stay out of foul trouble.
Everything that made last night such a great win for the Knicks is going to be extraordinarily difficult to repeat tomorrow night in Indiana. Jalen Brunson's best shooting performance of the entire playoffs. Pascal Siakam's worst shooting performance of the entire playoffs. The turnovers, the drop in pace, everything we saw from Tyrese Halliburton, which was his worst game of the playoffs. If you're banking on all of those things to happen again, it's going to be a long night for New York.
It doesn't have to all happen again. One or two of those things have to happen again. It could still be a close game. This was a double figures deficit for most of the second half. So it doesn't necessarily see, I'm with Michael. Like, this could be the best game now of this series, and it could have an epic ending, which we'd all be rooting for.
I'll tell you, here's how I see this. You tell me if this makes sense to you. We did an outstanding tape just 15 or so minutes ago showing how Karl Anthony Towns carried the Knicks last night with his offense, and we'll see whatever adjustments the Pacers make. We then made the observation. The Knicks have gone with this defense lineup, right? And whenever they're resting now, Tibbs, who Kenny Smith joked before wouldn't play 9 guys in a baseball game, all of a sudden is doing it, right? He's got what the Pacers didn't do is make them pay for it. They didn't make the Knicks pay for really only having one offensive option on the floor at a time. So if either A, they're able to get the ball out of Towns' hands, or B, and I hate to say it, but more likely, Towns is in really bad foul trouble, which is sort of his MO, I think that's going to be impossible for the Knicks to do.
I think it's going to be the latter. I think they're going to bait him into driving. This is kind of a setup. This is all strategic warfare, by the way, right? So they didn't come over and help a lot side to side from the weak side. I think Karl Anthony Towns now knows that I have to attack, be physical, attack, head down, get to the rim. I think there are going to be a lot of charge opportunities, and that's going to make Karl Anthony Towns take a step back. If he starts settling for threes, that plays in Indiana's favor. It plays in Indiana's favor. It makes him less aggressive.
In a fight, the point of working the body is to tire out the opponent so you can kill the head later in the fight, right? 747 is the number. That's how many additional minutes the Knicks starters have played
Talking about that for
over the Pacers starters in this postseason. At some point, as we get into the deep waters of this series, that body work is going to come.
That's Rick Carlisle's message since Game 1. He keeps saying 13 days. We're at day 10.
I will say this, Landry Shamet is fresh. The Knicks do have some guys win, man.
Precious Achiuwa is very fresh.
Honestly, like there are moments in the game, I'm watching it on TV, Stace turns to me and says, "Who's that?" And I have to pretend I knew. Oh, well, that's, it's Landry Shamet.
One quick thing also to watch is Aaron Nesmith's ankle, and how much did that affect him defensively? He was 1 for 8 shooting, and Jalen Brunson got wherever he wanted against him. He has been a key defender on him. That ankle seemed fine in 4, but it didn't seem as fine last night.
Wendy, you've been talking about this since before Game 1, that Rick Carlisle's message was going to be, it's all about the long game. It's all about wearing them out. Here we are. I mean, we have arrived at the long part. We've arrived at Game 6 here. Is that advantage Indiana?
It could be. I also said before Game 1 that the secret to this series was really the wings. And I'm going to point out that in the Indiana losses, Aaron Nesmith and Andrew Nembhard are something like 8 out of 33 shooting. They were terrible last night. I think they were 4 of 16 combined. That's also where a lot of their offensive drain happened. The Knicks also have to make sure that they take care of those guys, because those guys are secret drivers of their success. And, you'd expect going home that they would have a better game.
Yeah, you're exactly right on the numbers. They were a combined, Nesmith and Nembhard, a combined 4 of 16 from the floor, to the point that Joe made earlier, and we can put the picks up on the screen. Fortenbaugh not only likes the Pacers to win the game, but you're giving the 3.5.
Oh, I see we're all finally starting to come around a little bit here, because this bottom third has been a lot of Knicks stuff. Yeah, I'd lay the points. I think it's a double-digit win. I think what we saw in the last series, where the Knicks went to Boston up 3-1, and the Celtics just hammered them out of desperation, and then you came back to the Garden and the Knicks put it on Boston, I think that's what happens.
I will tell you guys this. If the Knicks find a way to squeeze it out on the road, it will be the biggest game of the year. Game 7 back at Madison Square Garden. It would be the best thing for this.
Bold take.
Alan, you're the only one with a Knicks under your name. Why?
Yeah, because again, they found something with their depth. They found something with these lineups. It's 3 of the last 4 games. They have played a lot better. And I just think that the momentum is starting to shift towards them. The belief is also still with them.
I think they found something with the pressure on Halliburton.
Yep.
We'll see what the adjustment is. It's been a very interesting series, and thankfully we get at least one more game. I can also tell you we get First Take coming up next. How is Stephen A. feeling after the Knicks' big win last night? Did they find the formula to stop Halliburton? Answers to those and other questions as the debate begins with First Take, top of the hour, right here.